My name is Riley Johnston, and my candidate number is 6121. Today I will be answering the creative critical reflection question number 1. How does your product use or challenge conventions? And how does your film opening represent social groups or issues? Our production company is called Bar Films, and we named this after our initials, Ashley, Riley, and Bella. We combined our names to form a word that's short, easy to remember, and catchy. This makes the company identity more marketable and professional. We chose a distorted, scratchy font for the title to reflect the unsettling and creepy tone of the film. The font appears with a flickering effect similar to old horror movies, which immediately set the audience's expectations for the genre. Typically, in many films, it is common that directors start the film with an establishing or wide shot. However, we challenge this convention by starting ours with an over-the-shoulder shot of an antagonist driving. We used a close-up over-the-shoulder shot and focused on the antagonist from the very beginning. This decision was intentional to create immediate suspense and tension, drawing the viewer into the horror atmosphere right away. We wanted to keep his identity hidden, which is why we didn't really show his face, and mainly focused attention on his shoulder, the hands on the wheel, and the side of his face. We later introduced an establishing shot of the park to give context, but we mainly prioritized a wide shot of the protagonist, glimpses of the stalker figure, and shots of the park environment. These images work together to build a sense of isolation and danger, all which contribute to the horror genre in general. In our film opening, we have 5 titles displayed: the studio title, the film title, the director, which is myself, actors Ace Taylor and Isabella Lamberg, editor credits to myself and Ashley, and producer credits to Ashley, Bella, and I. Our protagonist is dressed in workout clothes, which helps to identify her as an everyday, relatable character. She is someone who is vulnerable alone in a public setting. This taps into the fear of being watched or followed when you least expect it. And although she appears strong and independent as she's working out alone, as the continued film goes on, it appears that she actually does realize that something's wrong. However, she decides to ignore her gut instincts, which also appears in real life, which we tapped into that fear of ignoring your instincts and then something happening. Our story represents Enigma by showing the stalker character right away without explaining who he is or what he wants. This keeps him more mysterious and makes the audience question why is he following her, or what he might get out of following her, what he's going to do to her. And it sort of raises those questions in the audience's heads that keep them entertained. This sense of mystery is basically essential in any horror openings, and as a convention we intentionally followed. We used a typical convention of the audience knowing that he's there and following her, but the protagonist not knowing it. This makes the audience question when she's going to notice or what will happen to her if she doesn't notice. Our film opening includes many easy-to-recognize horror stereotypes. Starting with our antagonist, he's more of a mysterious man. He's in dark clothing and sunglasses. He's stalking this girl who's working out. This is often seen in horror movies, as there's always a mysterious man, dark clothing, often unknown. The girl fits more of the victim character. She's unaware, she ignores her instincts, she doesn't really know what's happening with her surroundings. And then the setting is very isolated, which adds to the vulnerability and the fear. All of these conventions are used to clearly signal the horror genre, And when he's behind the tree stalking her, we can sort of see that like she realizes that maybe something's off, however she ignores it. We used low lighting, desaturated or muted color tones. Besides her leggings, we wanted her to stand out. We used eerie music to reinforce the horror genre. And symbolically, the stalker's appearance follows classic movie stereotypes like the hidden eyes and the sunglasses in the beginning. And we also used many technical aspects like quick cuts, POV angles, and fades to create unease throughout the film opening. This is a low angle we intentionally used to sort of categorize his feet and show power. We use this to show that he's walking towards her without necessarily revealing his identity quite yet. We wanted to keep this for later in the film. That's something that wouldn't be introduced in the opening. It also shows that he has all of this power since she doesn't necessarily know that he's there, and he's walking towards her and we don't know what he's going to do. We used a point of view shot when he's walking behind her before he puts the chemicals on her face to show what he saw and from his perspective what was happening. We intentionally included the shots of her eyes flashing after the cloth is placed over her face. We did this to show the pure shock that the victim was in and just how scared that she might have been. The weapon, in a sense, that the antagonist used was a gray cloth. This gray cloth was our prop, and it contained chemicals on it that would put the protagonist unconscious. That way that the antagonist could gain control of her and bring her back to the car. We decided to add our protagonist point of view shot of what was happening. She's going in and out of consciousness at this point, and she sees snippets of her feet, of the surroundings, which is why it's so choppy, because her actual vision was choppy. It was her eyes were closing, and they were going in and out. This contributes to the film by showing the point of view that she had when she was getting dragged to the car.
Wanna play a game?
The opening clip ends with the phrase, "wanna play a game," which is said by the antagonist character to the protagonist character once he puts her in the trunk. This basically shows that the film is not ending here but is going to continue and maybe in a different location. Wanna Play a Game is meant to be a play on a psychological effect and a psychological horror film, more than just a typical kidnapping. The background music we chose is called Dark Forest. It's from a royalty-free music website, and we chose it because of the eerie, suspenseful tunes that it helps to build the tension that we want. We love the fact that it didn't take away anything from the film, only added to it, which is really important to us because when we originally had brainstormed background music, we were thinking of creepy music, creepy words. However, when we were overlapping music that had words, we decided that it was in something that we wanted to do, and we decided against it. It was better to have something to complement the film and not necessarily be a distraction. So it was really important to us that we found that complement and that music that would fit the atmosphere of what we were trying to create. It helped to create isolation, fear, and all support the horror genre in general. The age rating that we chose is PG-13. We chose this because PG-13 allows us to cater to a large amount of audience members while not keeping the younger children in that mix and possibly making them too scared. This is important because when creating a film, you want to get the most amount of people that you can to go and see the film. Making it PG-13 allows for teens and adults to go and see the film, with keeping us safe from any younger audiences possibly getting scared. Technology was the most important of filming, and we used an iPhone camera for all of the shots and all of the scenes. We wanted to create a mix of different camera movements and angles, and we used handheld camera movements to create a raw, realistic feel. We also created still shots to make suspense. For example, like when she was working out and stretching, we tried to hold the camera as still as possible to mainly focus on her. We used low angle shots of the stalker to make him feel more threatening, and over the shoulder shots from his point of view to put the audience in his shoes. Our editing included sharp cuts to show panic and transitions to build tension. We used Canva for all of our editing to make sure that it was easy to use and able to be done effectively. The issue that we strive to represent in our film is kidnapping and safety. In the perspective of a young woman and as teenagers, we aim to highlight real-life dangers that many girls or women face when they're alone in public. Oftentimes you hear stories on the news or you hear stories from friends about how they were scared and that they felt someone was stalking them or someone was there, but we wanted to represent this in real life. While it was a fictional setup, it reflects real social fears and anxieties around stalking and violence against women. The isolation of the protagonist and the way that she dismissed her warning signs show how these situations can escalate and get worse. The representation of social groups in our film also plays a role to recognize horror conventions. We primarily represent the social group of teenage girls focusing on a young female protagonist. She is dressed in workout clothes and represents someone that's independent and wants to be healthy while running. Her character reflects a common stereotype in horror films, the girl who is alone and unaware of the danger.